So what's up guys, we're back from round one. I'm gonna start doing like a mini series, I guess. I kind of just stopped making content on the car right after the alignment video, which I don't even think I posted yet at the time this will get posted, because we came down to basically a 2-week deadline with the car, testing, get everything ready with the Freedom Factory, and I'm the only person filming, editing, and working on the Corvette because it's my car. So trying to do that and balance clutch kickers became a little bit much for me in the last couple of weeks. Just I wanted to make sure that everything was ready for the series and everything was ready for round one, and that the car was ready to go for round one. And then we had some issues in testing with the car, so then I had to get all that fixed. It was like this big old catastrophe, but I'm gonna try and get better about making some more content with the car. So what I'm gonna do basically from here on out is every time the car is rented, I'm gonna do a round recap video, and then I'm going to do like a damage report just to kind of show everybody what these cars go through on like a normal weekend, like just general wear and tear, what we have to do to the car between rounds, stuff like that. So as you can see, I got the Corvette behind me. Round one actually went really great for the series and the car, sort of. The series, given the issues that we had with the weather and both teams being brand new, like we did a fantastic job as coming together as like two new teams, making decisions, get everything done. Like I'm so stoked on how round one went. I can't wait to see what happens for 2 through 5. Like this year's series should be stellar, so if you're not there, you definitely should be. The first time, so a lot of people don't know this, the first time I actually got to do laps in the car, like real laps, was at the Freedom Factory Thursday night before paid practice on Friday. So initially we went to Five Flags, which is our local venue, to do some testing. I got 4 laps in and I had a clutch failure. It was no fault of Action Clutches. It was just a freak thing. I somehow managed to either not notice or just did not clean the flywheel enough after I got it back from the machine shop, and there was oil contamination on the clutch, soaked through the clutch and basically glazed the entire thing and ruined my clutch. So I ended up having to leave the car with Full Lock Automotive. I made a deal with Ernest and I bought, thank you Alec Honadale, he had a spare clutch that I got to use for round one. But I was leaving for LS Fest Vegas. So for those of you that don't know, I also work for Holly this year as part of the Drift Challenge team. I'm one of the judges. So I flew out the day after our test day to go to Vegas for LS Fest, and I was gone all the way up until the day before round one. So I had to leave my car with Ernest. Luckily they got the entire car done for me in like basically a day. I got the car back, basically got back from Vegas, loaded it straight in the trailer, and I went straight to the Freedom Factory. So I did 6 laps in the car on Thursday just to test the layout and kind of make sure the car was good, and the car performed well above my expectations for a brand new car, for a brand new build. There was absolutely 0 issues with the car, 0 adjustments to be made. I think the only thing I ended up doing was after the 4th lap, the oil got really hot, not really hot, but got hot enough to where the dry sump pressure finally settled. So I bumped the dry sump pressure up and like that was it. Everything else was perfect. The alignment was spot on that I did. I didn't have any weird quirks with the build, like nothing was wrong. It was like basically ready to go. So we did a few more laps, which I'll insert a couple of those clips here somewhere for the next 30 seconds. Ironically enough, we were so rushed to get the car into testing on Thursday and to like get the track set up and everything. I don't even think any of us thought to grab cameras. Like I was gonna put the GoPros in the bash bar so we could see the suspension and make like a really awesome edit out of it. And once we get to the track, it's like just madness, right? Like it's not that we don't, how do I phrase this? It's not that we don't know what to do and how to do it. It's just like there's such a short time frame from when we arrive to when drivers show up. Like this year we showed up a day early, which was infinitely better, but there's just so much to do between when we arrive and when the show actually starts on Friday that like there's never enough time no matter how early you are, right? So it's like you kind of forget a lot of the little things because you want to focus on getting the event ready, making everything perfect for the drivers and the spectators when they show up, like making the show as good as possible, right? So there's like a lot of meetings, a lot of pre-prep, a lot of track setup, a lot of like last minute ideas where it's like we didn't think about it for the past few months, but when we were there looking at it, it's like, oh, we should definitely do it this way. So like some last minute adjustments. And I don't think people realize how much time that actually takes up. So for round 2, I'm gonna have the camera on me. I'm gonna film the entire process of from the time we show up on Wednesday to when the show starts on Friday, what we have to do, so you guys can kind of see like how crazy it can actually be. But that's pretty much all for round 1. Next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna shift the GoPro over to the car. We're gonna run through the car and kind of show you some of the damage from round 1. Unfortunately, the car did have an incident with the K-rail on like the very first lap on Friday. So there's some, not significant damage, but some pretty big damage to the car. So we'll just go through the car, show you guys kind of what happened. I don't really know why it happened. You have to ask the guy who ran the car. I think a lot of people that weekend underestimated, I think, how slick the concrete was, and just kind of one of those things, like if you don't know, you don't know. And like, I'm not gonna lie, on Thursday in testing, I almost hit the K-rails with it. Like the second lap I did, I just like came onto the concrete way too hot in the last outer zone, and like you hit the brakes and nothing happens. So like I was on the brake, I was on the foot brake, nothing happened. I was trying to get on the handbrake, nothing would happen. And like last second I just clutch kicked and like the car luckily dug out of it. But the concrete there is really, really slick. So I think a lot of people underestimated that this weekend. There was a lot of guys that nicked the K-rail, wet or dry. There's a lot of guys that had issues with the concrete. So hopefully they'll get that figured out for rounds 2 through 5, but we're gonna shift over to the car and show you what happened. All right, so here we are, we're back over with the Corvette. I'm gonna flip the camera around and kind of run you guys through what happened. The car had a left side collision with the K-rail. So we got the left side of the car pretty good. It did some stuff that I've never seen before though. Like the hit wasn't, it wasn't like he was hit, like, it wasn't like it hit at 60 or 70 miles an hour. You know, the car was probably going like 30 or 35 or so. But just like I guess the shock from the front getting whipped over into the K-rail, like it didn't break the front wheel or anything, but stuff got damaged in the front that I would have never ever guessed got damaged in an accident like this. So start with the obvious, the front bumper. That's not too bad. I mean, that's fixable, but like the thing is the bumpers are so cheap that's like not really worth the time for somebody to pay me to fix this, repaint it. Like the canard's broke, the lip is gone. I have it, it was in the trailer, but like the other canard is MIA, don't know where it's at. It's like to order the canards is like 180 bucks, but the bumper's only 300. So like by the time somebody paid for like the labor or whatever to sand the bumper down, fix the cracks, smooth this out, fix that, it's like cheaper just to buy a new bumper. So we'll put a new bumper on the list. Let me crawl up under the car. The front bash bar. The front bash bar is not too bad, but it did get bent into the headlight. The bash bars in this car touched the front bumper, so it got bent in 6 inches or so, but the plates are fine, didn't break any of that, so no biggie. This is the weird one. So it's kind of hard to see. Oh, maybe not, it shows pretty good on camera. The radiator is bent. So I've never seen a radiator get bent from a K-rail incident like that without like the whole front end shifting, but like you can see right here too, there's a big gap in the shroud because the shroud no longer fits. It bent like the whole radiator assembly like in and like up, which I can only assume is from the aluminum just being weaker than the steel around it and the shock wave like coming through the car. So radiator, it's not leaking, but I can't in good faith rent it out to somebody and be like, yeah, by the way, the radiator's kind of bent, so like if it starts leaking on you, it just kind of is what it is. So we'll have to put a new radiator in the car. Everything over here was fine. The rack got bent or broken in the accident. I'm not sure which. I haven't talked to Josh, the guy who rented it, a lot since we've been emailing back and forth, but the old rack is in the trailer. It doesn't look too damaged, but I know it was leaking on them and they couldn't get the inner tie rod, wouldn't come off, but it obviously bent the tie rod, inner and outer, and it broke the rack. So they threw a rack in it, but the rack they threw in it is leaking. So I'm gonna pull the rack back out and send it off to Josh McGuire, Sparky Built, have him rebuild it. For those of you who don't know, Josh is the absolute man when it comes to rebuilding racks, so I would definitely send all your racks to him. The front wheel and tire, the tire got damaged. These are the backup 235s. I normally run a 265 on the front of this car. The 265 had some chunks missing out of it, but the wheel was okay. The wheel just had a couple nicks like up here, and no big deal. Take a flat hole to them, smooth them out. I'm gonna get them all powder coated at the end of the year, so no need to have Josh replace the front wheel. The front fender, all the mounting tabs got broken. It's self-tapping screw to the body right now. Right here, which I'm not a big fan of, but I understand why they had to do it trackside, but new fenders will be on the list. The doors were completely fine. Doors are what they are. Now this is probably the smallest damage but the worst to fix. So it cracked the rocker panel all the way through, and for those of you that know, on Corvettes, that rocker panel is not replaceable. It's panel bonded to the frame. So, well, okay, it's replaceable, but it's not like easy to replace. So obviously we're just gonna have to fix that. But it broke the mounting tabs off the fender here. The whole back left corner of the car is pretty smashed up. I mean, there's a hole here. The bumper's basically in two pieces on this corner. It's smashed here. The tail light got nicked. The tail light's not too bad. But yeah, like all the mounting tabs in the fender are completely smoked. So rear fender, rear bumper for sure. The bumper got cracked even more there. You got it over here a little bit too. It shifted the whole rear end of the car somehow. Like the hood, the hatch pins don't line up anymore. You have to like force the pins in, and now the gap is super big. I don't think it actually moved the hatch. I think what happened is it shifted the entire rear fiberglass assembly, which, I mean, it just kind of is what it is. I knew that was going to happen eventually, so I'm going to have to take, basically when the new body panels come in, I'll have to take everything off, try and shift everything back over and build some tabs to kind of hold it in place, but no big deal, kind of is what it is. The left rear bash bar, let me put the hatch up. Left rear bash bar, checked out. It got pretty bent, so that's just off. It's in the trailer. We'll have Drift Lab, my buddy Hayden, whip up a couple new ones for me. Not super mad about the rear bash bar. We're gonna change the design. It did exactly what it's supposed to do. It hit the wall and it crumpled, so it saved the frame rails because the chassis is fine. Like, it didn't hit hard enough to bend any of the frame rails. There's no wrinkles. The paint's not even chipped on the frame. This is what I'm most impressed about though. So the only thing that happened to my FDF fab, front or rear, was the paint got chipped right here from where the barrel of the wheel came in. My Fortunato coilover is fine. All the rear suspension was fine. Let me walk over here to where all my stuff is. It bent one Heim joint on the FDF fab, which, for the fact that the wheel basically hit flush on the wall, the fact that the only thing that happened was that, is like, kudos to Josiah and his team. I mean, suspension is meant to have failure points and whatnot, but for that thing to hit a wall at 40 mile an hour and probably 80 mile an hour wheel speed just to go slap into a wall flat and not take any damage whatsoever minus the Heim is extremely impressive to me. So kudos to them. Big shout out to FDF Fab. Thank you guys. And I think that's kind of it. Obviously my wheel got smoked. One of my consoles shattered into like, I don't know, 12 different pieces. The barrel is still in the other tire in the trailer. But again, I'm not super mad about it because I would rather the wheels break than break everything in the corner of the car, because everything on the corner of the car is probably, you know, a few $1,000s worth of stuff between the coilover and the FDF fab and the rotors and the brakes and the subframe and all that, like the axle. I would much rather that not get damaged and have to buy a $300 wheel, $330 wheel, whatever they are, then all that gets shattered and the wheel be fine, right? So the wheel did exactly what I was hoping it would do, and it basically took the force of the entire impact and everything's fine. The subframe did shift over about a 1/16 of an inch, but Corvettes have like a slotted subframe. There's like little circular discs that go in them and they can slot. So no big deal. We'll loosen the subframe, shift it back over, realign the car. I think that's it. The majority of the damage is actually paint and bodywork, and this is the difficult part about this rental car for me, is that like I'm very upfront in the fact that anybody that wants to rent it, it's in the contract I have everybody sign, that the car has to be presentable round to round, because it's not just a drift car, right? Like, it's a showpiece, it's a marketing piece for everybody on the car. Like, I can't take it to Holly LS Fest East in Kentucky in September like I want to, and the body panels be destroyed, right? Like, it's not that kind of drift car where it's not like oh, well, we'll just beat it up all year and then at the end of the year replace everything and paint it. I can't do that. So unfortunately, the hardest part about this rental program is going to be the paint and body work and the wrap. So like, you know, little scuffs and stuff like this, yeah, they are what they are. They happen in drifting. Like, I could take a magic eraser and get that off. Like, little wall boops happen. Like, if the bumper got scratched, like this right here, if the bumper got scratched, no biggie, is what it is. But stuff like this, I can obviously just repair this kit, but it's like not worth the time or the labor involved to repair it, prep it, paint it, rewrap it. I could just buy a new bumper and spray it and be way faster, way cheaper. So unfortunately with the rental thing going forward, that's probably gonna be the hardest part, is I need to find a fair way to be able to be like, hey, I understand stuff happens in drifting, but like, I can't take the car out like this. So now, unfortunately, we're gonna have to put basically all new body panels in the car, minus the doors. I'm gonna have to repaint everything, get everything rewrapped before round 2, which is like 5 weeks away. And that takes time away from the rental program, which is not necessarily fun, because like, in a weird way, I actually had this car, I was able to rent this car for FD Atlanta. It didn't work out because my truck's actually in the shop and I couldn't get it there. But Trenton Beecham wanted to rent the car for Pro 1 because his car wasn't ready. And besides the fact that there's a few tech things to do, like, I'm not okay with the car going to an event, especially an FD event, like an event of that caliber, looking like this. So now I'm missing like rental time and a variety of other things. So I've got to figure out a better way to kind of speed up this process, right? So I think what I'm going to do is just basically order 2 body kits, have one fully prepped and painted, and basically just rotate them out. So one gets damaged, put a new one on while the new one's getting painted. It's just gonna suck because that's gonna be a lot of money to invest, but I want this car to be and look 100% all the time. So like the amount of attention this car got at round 1 before it even ran, it was just sitting in the pits, was incredible. I know a lot of people have been following this build, kind of seeing how this rental thing is gonna work out, what Klutch is gonna do with it in the future, what I'm gonna do with it in the future, and based on round 1, I'm not super upset about how things are going. Hopefully next year I have like 3 or 4 of these cars. I really want to do an S550 Mustang next and build like an elite rental car program. So I don't know, we'll see. That's gonna wrap up this video. We will get back with you guys when I have all the stuff to fix the Corvette, and we'll see you guys at round 2.